Hi, my name is Sam Cusimano, and welcome to Electricity for Progress. Today, we will be further exploring the FreePlayTech CM3 gaming platform. Previously, we modified this yellow shell to accommodate the FreePlayTech CM3 board and to also fit these batteries. I wanted to expand the functionality of the USB port. You can see there's a full-size USB port present on the CM3 board, which is really great to connect peripherals or even a USB hub. But I wanted to add Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity to the CM3 natively, so that way I could use this also as not only a mobile gaming system, but also as a portable mini computer. I was able to get from Muxtronics their Nano Hub, and the Nano Hub has two USB inputs and a single output, which can be added to electronics like this FreePlayTech CM3 and fit inside to expand the USB inputs. So I'm going to put down a piece of paper towel and flip my CM3 over here. I don't want to scratch the bezel or the lens on the front, and I'll open it up and try not to mess up my display too much there. So we can see here on the CM3 board there are a series of expansion ports labeled at the top left corner. As well, you might be able to see in here, I'll zoom in a moment, there are USB connection points on the board right here. And essentially, FreePlayTech has set up the board such that it will be really easy for me to add in this small USB hub in between this USB output port and its internal circuitry. I have, in order to facilitate, well, initially I got one of these USB simple, very inexpensive Wi-Fi modules, but then I realized I also wanted to have Bluetooth connectivity. So today we're going to use one of these Edimax N150 2-in-1, right, combo Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. And I'm going to take that apart, try to strip it down to just its bare components, connect it to this USB hub, and then also split out the USB input port here on the CM3 board by cutting these traces right here, marked USB plus and minus, and then using this expansion port over here to wire in the new little tiny USB hub. I'm not sure exactly where everything is going to fit right now because I don't think I want to have all this happening underneath the display, which means I should probably set it all up so I can do my wiring on the underside of the board. I've removed the batteries from the CM3, and now I thought I would show you how to remove the screen. The flexible cable here is pretty sturdy, but you don't want to work it too many times. Ideally, you know, when building one of these devices, you would set it all up and then install it, you know, once. But as I like to modify things, this thing's going to be opened and closed very many times. Let me just show you. There's these little tabs in brown on the side of the connector here. And if I just stick a little screwdriver in there, I can wedge that open, and you can use your fingertip too. It's easy to break these things when you're trying to wedge things in and out, and when you only have limited tools for your task. So, mini screwdrivers are the best to give you a little bit of play. There we go. And now if I grip the ribbon and I delicately slide it out, boom. I'm going to make sure I put this over on the side carefully so I don't get the screen, or the display really, the display dirty, and it doesn't get scratched. All right. Now we can look at what's going on inside this FreePlayTech CM3. Here, let me zoom in real quick. Here, zoomed in on the board, you can see these two traces, USB plus and USB minus, and these are the data lines that are connected through these vias, and I'm sure through elaborate circuitry up here to the main USB port. And I've tested that with a multimeter to make sure there's continuity, and you can trace that all the way back across these two pads up to USB plus and minus over here. And then you can also see there's two pads, USB EX plus, USB EX minus. These two pads are connecting over here to the external USB port, while the USB plus and minus are actually only connected to what's going into the CM3 itself, as I understand it. So what I'm going to do is cut along this little white line, here you can see, drawn on the circuit board, and separate the USB external port from the main USB bus. And then what I'm going to do is take this little tiny 2-port USB hub and connect the main USB to plus and minus here, that goes into the CM3 module. And then I will connect one of these ports here to the USB EX plus and minus that goes to the output, and the other one I will connect to the Edimax N150 Wi-Fi Bluetooth module that I will also need to mount inside of here. I wanted to say a big thank you to Edimax for their packaging material here. They have a cardboard, just standard cardstock for their main package, and then they have this biodegradable pressed board for their holder that holds in the little USB device, just standard paper documents. This is all recyclable material. Good call, Edimax. All right. Now let's look at this little USB dongle. These little tiny USB dongles really impress me. The entire circuit board tends to be contained within the thin area of the half size of your standard USB jack. And then there's a printed circuit board which has the 4 main leads of USB on there. So I think all we really have to do is go at this with a pair of pliers and a little brute force method and try to pop out all of the components and see how small this circuit board really is. So here we just have some standard pliers, and I'll apply a little bit of lateral pressure to it. A little bit of pressure this way. Just see and listen if it makes any clicking sounds anywhere, which will be the first sign that maybe some kind of glue or some kind of pressure point gives in. There we go. Now I'm going to carefully wiggle. Now that I got a little wiggle going on here. Ooh. Well, of course, pulling something out and having a big springy sound like that and seeing apparently a circuit board antenna sticking out like that isn't the best sign for this particular USB dongle right now. But if I'm careful, I think I'll probably be able to clean this up and make sure that it still works. All right, now let's just try to pry around inside here, not impacting hopefully any of the chips or microcontrollers, but really just trying to get a little give around here where the aluminum frame would separate, or at least maybe separate from, oh, boom, any plastic components. Now you can see that's just a little plastic sleeve that slides in the front, and that also protects any components that are underneath there. So I'm just going to try to push this back out like this from the USB aluminum sleeve, and a little more wiggle. Boom, there it is. And you can see here are the 4 traces already etched on the circuit board. The antenna is horizontally, or yes, perpendicularly mounted to the board. I haven't seen that before, but hopefully I can make sure that still works pretty well. And then on the bottom here, boom, that's where all the magic happens. This is the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip, which is driving everything. All I need to do now is essentially solder on wires to the data plus and minus here, the positive voltage and of course ground, and attach that into our USB hub, and then integrate all of that inside of the case for our free play CM3. Let's cut these traces here on the CM3 board, which are the jumpers between the external USB port and the main USB circuitry. And if I'm careful, hopefully I can just easily cut along this line and not disturb anything else. And here we'll test some continuity and see if everything is nice and separated. Alright, now that we've cut this small trace on the board, I have my little Sanwa meter here set up in continuity mode with gold-tipped probes. And what we'll do is we'll test the continuity between the USB plus and USB external plus up here in the breakout area. Oh, and you can see they're not connected. USB minus to USB minus there. They're also not connected, right? That's great. Now over here we can actually directly test USB EX from the breakout to USB plus on, there we go, on the actual port, and USB minus on the port. What a great design this was for a simple cut right there, and then having the breakout. I'm going to have a really easy time wiring in this external USB hub. While it won't take much room to fit in these 2 small circuit boards, I'm thinking what I can do is here behind the CM3 board, tuck inside, there's tons of empty space available right here inside of the Game Boy Advance case. And this will give me an opportunity to potentially keep the Wi-Fi modules close to an edge as possible, maybe, I don't know. But at least I know I can have my little USB board and just, glue that, hot snot glue it right into place, and it'll stay in a good situation. So we have plenty of room inside the case for this modification. And actually looking at that, it makes me think, wow, there's tons of room in there. I could potentially do other modifications too, put in other circuitry if I wanted to do, let's say, an analog joystick or a secondary analog joystick, try to tuck it in around somewhere, or some other modifications to the board. But let's look at the wiring we're going to have to do for these 2 boards and get some solder going on here. So here's a pretty good shot of all the circuit points that we're going to want to connect You can see the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth board on the far left top, where we're going to be wiring the ground and the 5 volts, the data plus and minus, to the bottom left-hand corner of the Muxtronics Nano Hub. I'm going to be running the primary ground 5 volts data plus and minus over to the CM3 board, and you can see where it says USB plus, USB minus, ground, and 5 volts at the bottom of that little circle. That's where I'm going to connect the primary USB hub, and then I'm going to run jumpers from data plus and minus on the top port on the top left-hand corner of the Nano Hub over to the USB EX plus and USB EX minus. And that way we'll have our external USB port also then connected if I wanted to run a keyboard or a game controller or something into that USB port. I think I'll use this rainbow color wire from an old jumper strip to wire this in. I need 6 connection points here, and while this wire is actually fairly rigid and thick, if I trim it up the right way, there is enough space inside the Game Boy Advance case, I think, to run everything around between all of the parts. So let's grab the strip and pick out, 6 points here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to gray here, and we'll peel back the strip, and then I'll cut it off down here towards the bottom. Still leave a little tiny bit, because you never know when I might want one of these IC jack ribbon cables attached to something. Alright, and now what we want to do is look at the strip here and identify how's the best way to cut these wires such that they fit best into place. Here, give me a second and I'll make some trims. Alright, we've broken up our wire here a little bit, and now we'll use the Paladin wire stripper to get some nice clean stripped ends on these leads. And then as I go into each one, we'll go deeper and deeper, because there's at least a 0.1 inch pitch between all of them as they're laid out on the board. There we go, I got 2 in 1 shot there. Using the right tool makes all the difference. Let's move the CM3 out of the way here and tin up the ends of these wires, making sure that they're nice and sharp. When you have braided wire like this, you need to make sure you don't have any little loose strands sticking out anywhere. And tinning helps when you're trying to bond it to the actual circuit board. So here I've got my iron set to 360 degrees centigrade, and I don't have the airflow on right now because it does make a horrible racket through the microphone. So hopefully I just won't inhale any of these fumes. Alright, so each of our leads looks like it's tinned fairly well, and it's really just a matter of rubbing some solder against it. Now, let's bring our circuit board back in, and since we're going to be placing the USB hub and the USB adapter underneath on the bottom side of the board here, I'm going to be flipping this over and plugging in each of these wires, hoping to have some kind of sensible order to how they're all connected. So hopefully everything will fit right in there with it tinned. Sometimes if you tin the wire up and you apply too much solder, then they're too thick to even fit through the the holes. And there I've wrestled all 4 of those leads into that side just by continually to apply pressure. There we go. You can see them over here. I'm just going to bend those leads over a little bit to give them some kind of security. And then let's get the other 2 in. So it's ground and USB plus. I'm going to stick the brown into ground and the red into USB plus. I don't know. I just like color coding. And then again, bending the leads over on this side. Now we've got a pretty solid connection. If I press up the wire, all right. Now, let's try to solder that stuff into place. Okay, and there you can see all of the little solder joints. And I'll just go back in here with some flat cutters and trim all of them off. And then on the other side you can see the ribbon cable. And it's pretty happy and ribbony. I think that's going to sit down really well when we try to insert that into the main enclosure. Successful case. Let me just trim those leads up. All right, there we go. Classy. So it looks like USB EX plus and minus are the blue and the green, and they're going to go up here on the top left to the D plus and the D minus. Then we have the main USB plus and minus are the yellow and the orange, and they're going to go over here to D plus and D minus. And then we have red and brown are positive voltage and ground, which will go over here to 5 volts and ground. And I've tested continuity, so all the 5 volts and grounds on this whole board are all connected, so it's sharing power. We only have to make one connection down there. And then after this, we'll connect ground, positive voltage, data plus and data minus over to our USB board for Wi-Fi and for Bluetooth. So let's strip a few more of these wires and cut a couple wires to use for our Wi-Fi and Bluetooth board. Alright, so I have stripped and tinned all of the wires that are connected to the CM3, and I've got these really thin wires that I'm going to use to attach to the Wi-Fi module. These are fairly long, which will allow me to be able to route the Wi-Fi module anywhere in the case that I really want to, or I can trim them up later. It will be really easy to do, but I figured I'd start with really long leads and then end with the right size fit. So I'm going to pull the Wi-Fi module aside here, and I'm going to slide these wires down too. Now let's try to set up our primary connections here with the CM3 board and our Nano Hub. So I know that data plus is going to be the top wire for the external. So I want data plus the top here to be the blue, and then the green is going to be data minus. So if I can get both of those in there to start. All right. Again, I'll just fold them over a little bit. Cool. Tacking them with a little bit of solder. All right. Next, let's try to get, see, it's going to be yellow and then orange. And so yellow here is, oh, okay, yellow appears to be USB minus, right? And then orange, the bottom here, appears to be 5 volts. So yellow is USB minus, and we're going to put that USB minus, that's the main hub. So that's going to be over here. Yellow is USB minus, and again, orange was USB plus, so I'm going to put that into the 5 volts on this side also. See if I can get them both plugged in at the same time. Okay, oops. Tiny work. Don't make mistakes and be very careful, right? Or more so, be very careful, make mistakes, and continue to be careful. Here we go. Now I think I've got it. Right, so there is 5 volts is orange, data minus is yellow. Okay, and then we'll see USB plus over here. The top one is red and the bottom one is brown. So USB plus is red. So that's D plus here. And then ground is brown. All right. Now we'll just try to clean up all these wires and get them ready for soldering. I have everything bent over to the side a little bit just to make it easier to hold on. And again, I'm going to push real hard to stick the wires through from the main bundle into the circuit board here. All right. Now let's bring back over that soldering iron and attach these points. All right. And now let's attach all of these small jumper wires to the external output, or at least the secondary output. And these don't have any color to them. I'm just going to have to be real careful when I go back and attach them to the main circuit board later for the Wi-Fi module, that I get them in the right order. But for now, it's just going to be fine. And I really like having these really fine white wires to use. They take well to a marker if you want to color code them or if you need to. But it's also just nice to have something that's really thin and flexible to be able to run through your circuit board or run across to the other side of a case. These wires are thin enough to fit the wire and even also the sheathing. Oh, they keep falling out here. I'm probably getting a little greedy here trying to have all these wires in place before I start to solder. So maybe what I'll do is take a pause there and let's solder in all the wires we have in place. So we have everything over here nice and connected. Let's just get D plus and D minus in there and then move on to the other two wires. Alright. I'll bring one in for 5 volts. Fold that over. Oops. The benefits of small wires are not outweighed by the challenges in physically handling them. Alright. Now one more. Alright. Now let's just clean up all those little leads with my angle cutters, and we should have a nice clean board. Yeah, I think that looks pretty smooth, right? We've got all the connections together, we've got the jumper board down. Now let's just solder this guy into place on the ends of these long jumper leads. Okay, so let's tin up the pads here a little bit. This is going to be ground, data plus, data minus, and positive voltage. Okay, so we'll start with ground over here. Okay. Next up, we want data plus. And then we want data minus. And then our positive voltage. Alright. So now I think we're well connected between our USB, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi dongle, our USB hub, and we're connected all the way back over to the CM3 board here for external USB port, as well as our internal unit, and all I had to do is make one little cut there. Now that we have all of the parts attached, let's try to boot back up into the main operating system and make sure that everything still works. And as well, we want to try to test and make sure that our USB port works. I have here a little wireless USB controlled keyboard that we can use for this test, which I'll plug in up top here. Make sure I plug it in the right way. And then on the bottom of the board, I'm going to plug in the batteries. Oh, do I have that in backwards? Oh, I did. Might as well plug them both in. Alright. And of course, before we turn anything on, we also are going to want to have the display in place. So I'm going to take a little tiny flathead screwdriver and make sure that the brown piece here on the display connector is all the way out. Now carefully bring over the display itself and grab the ribbon and try to slide it into place, which it does pretty easily. And now I'll just pinch on both sides of the display connector on those little brown tabbies. There we go. That should be good enough for our test here. I'll set the display into its place. Alright, I'll turn on my keyboard and let's flick the switch. Wait for the little green light to flash. There we go. And we are booting up. Okay, well, we're in RetroPie, and I see it looks like there's power getting to our USB keyboard right there. Oh yeah, when I use the arrow keys on my keyboard, that works. Well, that's just pleasant. Alright, well here, let's try and select, I wonder what A and B are. Click, enter. Alright. And one thing I would like to try and do here is maybe we can get into the Wi-Fi settings, right? Wow, look at that. Wi-Fi. Alright, hit enter. And I guess if it sees anything, that means that the little Wi-Fi hub works, right? So connect to Wi-Fi network, enter. No WAN interface detected. So, well, not everything's working right now. Maybe I have some mistake over here with my wiring of the Wi-Fi dongle, or maybe I have some problem with how I have it set up. So I'll have to take that away and see if I can get it running. But for right now, it does seem that this Nano Hub is working, because I'm definitely getting control, right, with my keyboard here, which is pretty great. I think if I hit F4, right, that'll let me all the way out. And I'll be able to continue to use this keyboard and display to debug and get everything rocking, so I can have really just my Wi-Fi setup. I only really want Wi-Fi in order to have a little bit easier SSH ability to get into the device, and maybe so I can transfer images for ROM, since that's always takes such a long time when you're trying to upload your different ROM sets if you don't already have all the images cached. So now I know that I got the little blue light on here for the module, which I didn't notice last time. I'm going to try to go again into Wi-Fi and see if I can see the module. I might have to load a driver, and that could be my whole problem right here. Let's see, connect to Wi-Fi network, enter, no WLAN interface detected. Okay, well, even though now I know I definitely have a positive power here, I want to go back and see if I need to install a driver in order to make sure that this guy works. I was really hoping that this was going to work right out of the box. I think it even said Raspberry Pi on the box. Let me check that out. Okay, now I've undone the wires over here and plugged my USB hub, or my USB dongle, into the USB port. And let's see if we can get it to show up in RetroPie settings here. I should probably go up, right? There's fewer presses. Wi-Fi. Connect to Wi-Fi. Oh, so, and it still sees nothing. So there could be something wrong with the Wi-Fi interface that's going on right here, because if I, gingerly remove it and I replace it with, let me click OK here, and I gingerly replace it with another USB Wi-Fi hub, or Wi-Fi adapter. If I connect to Wi-Fi networks here, there we go, it's flashing. There we get right into a Wi-Fi network. So I wanted to use this one because it has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on it, but if I can't get my goals, then I'll just take apart this this other unit and pop that inside. My main goal is so I can SSH into this, and also so I can download some of the images associated with my ROMs. So at least I have a feeling now that this port works. I can get a Wi-Fi dongle to connect. I'll probably attach that over here and see if this hub, if both ports of the hub are working. If I can get this Wi-Fi dongle to connect, then I'll know for a fact that there's something wrong with the other Bluetooth Wi-Fi unit I was trying to use originally. Let's try to tear this guy down real quick and hopefully not use too much force if that's what happened to the last unit. I think that there's a little plug on the back that disconnects here. There we go. And it looks like I should be able to slide everything out of here. Grab my flathead screwdriver. Okay. Looks like this plastic shell is all mounted together in some way. Maybe I can push the board out from inside of it already. Again, I hope disassembly isn't how I messed up the last one, but this guy actually seems fairly large in the end. Now let me take this off camera for a second and see if I can't take it apart more easily. It just took a little bit more coaxing and the whole unit slid out. You can see that this single Wi-Fi unit is considerably larger than this little tiny combo Wi-Fi Bluetooth unit. But now we'll try our same approach here and make sure that we're connecting the right wires in the right order. I hope I did it right the first time, but we'll tin up our pads on the USB port. And again, our order here should be ground. You're here, USB plus, USB minus, and positive voltage. Okay, so here's the ground connection. USB plus. USB minus. And our positive voltage. All right. Okay, so let's try and turn this guy on now. Okay. I'm not sure what side the LED is going to be on. There we go, the LED just turned on. So at least we know it's getting power. Alright, and now let's navigate over to our RetroPie menu. Go into there. Click up to Wi-Fi. And let's see if our Wi-Fi module picks up. It's flashing over there, and it does. So we know that our USB hub works just fine. Here's our Wi-Fi module attached. The other one I was trying to use, I guess I must have broken, or something else is wrong with it or its driver. So now I know I can just continue to put everything together with this particular setup, but I still have my primary Wi-Fi setup. I hope that this has been informative to people who are looking to add a USB hub to your CM3. The breakout points are very, very well labeled. As well, the cut points needed on the board are labeled for the USB extension. And you could see earlier that the USB external port works just as well here as the other port going through my Nano hub. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and enjoy hacking and modifying your FreePlayTech CM3. Bye-bye.